Without a strategy, you're just talking. And frankly, no one cares. This is why we're going to tell you how to build out the strategy that you need to make your business branded podcast successful. You do not want to miss this, so stay tuned. I am diving right into it this week, and you need to start with a brand audit. What do I mean by this? Well, let's take stock of a couple of things, I guess I'm going to say. First off, we're going to look at your podcast's purpose. What's your brand's existing values? Let's take a look at that. I mean, what's the mission? What's the target audience? Like for us, I always say success is a shared thing. That is our core value. So how do I let that dictate the direction of the podcast? That's the question that we're going to start answering with this. The target audience, who are we talking to? Well, according to like YouTube and all the other stats that we get, our target audience is anywhere from like 25 to 40-year-old men. Great. That's information we know. That's information that we can use to direct our podcast. What I see too many people is they start chasing an audience or they start chasing items and they think, oh, well, there's this group over here or there's this group over there. And that may not necessarily fit who their target audience is for their product or their service or whatever like that. Unless you're looking to just build the podcast for the sake of building the podcast, figure out who your target audience is and aim it towards them. Now, there's one thing that I've got to tell you that's kind of a key in this. When I'm talking with people about this, in a lot of cases, I'm telling people like, look, figure out your target audience, figure out who you can speak to. In many cases, that is you. I was just talking with someone last week who's in the very beginning stages of building their podcast. And this woman was like, look, she goes, I want to talk to like a broad range of people. And I'm like, you're going to be talking to mid-50s women. That's who you are. That's who you speak very well to. It's tough to speak to people that are outside of your area, your realm. I'm not going to speak well to 20-somethings, to early 20-somethings or teens. It's just not a group that I'm probably going to have an easy time resonating with. So keep that in mind. Look at who your target audience is and make sure that your target person can speak to that target audience. If my target audience, like I said, was early 20-somethings, I probably wouldn't be the best host. I would need to find someone else to host that podcast. Tough pill to swallow, I know, but it's something that we need to look at because you need to authentically amplify your brand's message. What's authentic to your brand? Who does your brand go after? Who are the people that you're looking for? Once again, find the person that fits that or find the items that fit that. The other thing that I really want you to look at is I want you to look at what unique value can your podcast provide to your audience. Is this going to be informational? Is this going to help them fill in some of the blanks on your products? Is this going to help them use the product better? If you have let's say you have a widget that's maybe difficult to use, here's lessons on how to use that. That podcast typically does amazing for brands, and it also helps bring people in. So what I want you to do with this is, once we're done with the podcast here, is I want you to write a mission statement for the podcast. Now, you have to make sure that this is going to align with the mission statement, the core values of your business, but you need to write a mission statement for the podcast. Now, there's one piece to that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and that's going to help you kind of finish off how that statement's going to be. But once again, write that down right now. That is your homework assignment that I'm going to be given to you guys. The next piece on that is we want to do this audience persona deep dive. Who is your ideal listener? Now, in most cases, your ideal listener is probably going to be your ideal customer. We need to make sure that we are aligned with that. If you don't know their pain points, their interests, and this is the key where the podcast comes in, their informational needs. Those are the three big things. I know I just held up four fingers. Those are the three big things that you really need to have in line there. And even if it's not for the podcast, it's things that you need to have in line for your business. What's their pain point? What's their interest, and what's their informational need? These are blanks that you need to fill in for your audience as you start to develop the podcast. Why are we asking that? Well, we need to address those needs. We need to address that pain point. We need to address where they need the information. That's why we do the podcast here. We want to help you build your podcast. So we're addressing that informational need. I go out and do tons of research, and plus it's the knowledge that I've acquired working with a lot of podcast guests over the years, or podcast hosts over the years. It's that type of knowledge. It's that information that I'm going to try and feed to you. What helps with this, and an exercise that I go through with some people on this that may be stuck, is create a day in the life for your ideal listener. It's one of the things that we also do this in the class that I teach. Who is your ideal listener? What do they do? And when are they going to be listening to you? That the when to me is a big key, because if it's someone that's listening to you, like maybe you think most of the time they're going to listen to you before bed. Do you want to be this amped up, hey, loud, let's go podcast? Probably not. You want to be the smoother, quieter. Let's give them more information this way. Now, once again, if it's first thing in the morning and I come on the podcast and I'm talking like this and I'm just giving you this smooth, easy, delightful information. If I hear something like that first thing in the morning, I'm going straight back to sleep. I don't know about you, but I think most people are probably going to share in that. To me, it's those couple of things that you want to keep in mind. Like, when are they going to be listening in the car? Are they going to be listening while they're working out? Think of who your ideal listener is. Once again, that typically aligns with your ideal customer. Think about who that is and gear the podcast for that person. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this next section, which is because it's content pillars. We talked about setting up your content pillars before. You need 3 to 5 core content pillars that are going to reflect your expertise and resonate with your audience. Just simple enough. That episode, I will make sure that we have in the show notes. If you want to go rewatch or re-listen to that episode, if you're worried about missing episodes like this, I am going to hit you with the please do subscribe. Please make sure that you follow us. Please, if you can, I would love a review and or a comment from you. Would love to know what you'd like to see next. In this, same thing that we said with the podcast about the pillars. Go back, list those 3 to 5 pillars. Now, what I'm going to have you do after that is, if you think you're going to have a podcast with guests, once you've listed those 3 to 5 pillars, I want you to list 7, 8 guests that fit in with those pillars. Who speaks exactly to those items? That is huge, because I see in so many cases, and we've done this ourselves before, is you just call in a guest. You're like, oh, this person's great. I love talking with them. You might, but do they fit in with your content pillars? We called in a lot of marketing people and it was great. A lot of them didn't have podcasts, and I'm like, why are we talking to them? They're great marketing, awesome marketing information, but it didn't fit within our content pillars. So we kind of had to back that up and get to those right spaces again. Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it. Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines. We figured out who we're talking to. We've figured out like the core values and what we're trying to do with the podcast. Now we got to figure out the format and tone. I mentioned a little bit of this. The tone is going to be that. Are we upbeat? Are we the slower, smoother? I've done both. I've hosted both. I've worked with both. It takes a lot of work. It's not to say that I can't slow down and still be very thoughtful and authentic, but I'm a heck of a lot more comfortable being, I guess I would say, the amped up guy that I am that's sitting here all like moving around in the chair behind the microphone right now. Pick the tone that fits. And once again, this is where you have to realize you may not be the right person to market your brand. You may not be the right host for your brand, but pick a person, pick a persona that's going to match your brand for the tone. Big piece with that. In terms of format, I want you to look at, is this going to be interviews? Is this going to be solo shows? Is this going to be storytelling? There's different ways to go with this. You can tell customer success stories. I don't know how many people are going to listen to that. If you give interviews that talk about, like, let's say if you're a coach, I know a lot of people that are coaches, and I would, once again, I would equate them to be a general practitioner, like your doctor. You go to your doctor, he knows a lot about the human body as a whole. He says, look, you've got a heart problem. You want a cardiovascular specialist. You don't want your general practitioner typically opening your chest up to operate on your heart. That's not how that's done. So that's what the analogy that I make there is, if you're like a coach, a business coach, a life coach, whatever, you're the generalist. You are helping people with those things. Find someone that is a specialist in an area that you want to learn more of, that your clients want to learn more about. Find someone that's in that area that you can bring in as that expert, because now you're going to learn from them. Once again, it's the general practitioner, that's you, calling in the specialist to get more information. That is how great interview podcasts work. It's the generalist getting more information from the specialist. Think of it that way. If it is a solo show like this, once again, realize it's all on you. It's all on whoever the host is. If they've got to be amped up, if they've got to be nice, cool, calm, collected, make sure that whatever it is, it's going to fit with your brand, with your branding. The way we do things, well, it's kind of, I mean, me being the owner, it's kind of molded after me. So guess what? I think it fits pretty well. What we want is we want that consistent tone. We want that consistent voice. We want that consistent personality. People love podcasts because of the authenticity behind them. They want to get to know the person that they are hearing from. They feel that they know the person that they're hearing from. Once again, episode we did before builds that know, like, and trust. It allows whoever's there to build that know, like, and trust. Make sure that that is consistent. Make sure it's not all over the place. Make sure it's not amped up one day and super sad the next day. You don't want to have that happen. Here comes the big toughie. Strategic calls to action. Once again, I know a lot of people throw in just the, hey, like, share, and subscribe. They do that in the beginning, or they do that at the end, or whatever. That can work. The thing that is the best is when you have worked on something and you put it in subtly, or you build to it. Or if, once again, you've done the whole podcast and you get to the end and you say, hey, if you want more information on this, go to our blog, sign up for our email list, or let's talk about it in the Discord. Those are all great calls to action that are subtle, because once again, you are asking to help the person. You are asking to give them more information. Hey, if you'd like more information, I'm giving. It's really tough to ask people for stuff in a podcast. Always be giving is really the thing with that. So make sure that your calls to action do that. In the same sense, make sure that your calls to action align with your marketing goals. Are you looking for people to sign up for newsletters? Sure, then great. Make sure that the call to action aligns for that. What I hate is when we see the call to action as just this randomness. Make it be directed. If you're talking about a specific item, boy, it's really tough not to say, check out this item on our website for more information. That's a perfectly fine call to action. Just make sure that you're putting it in there and that it fits with what you're talking about. For me to spend the entire episode talking about building a branded podcast strategy, and then to not say at the end of it, hey, by the way, it's not about strategy, but to start a podcast, just do the thing. Well, it doesn't make sense. You know that if I'm going to tell you to sign up for the email newsletter, hint, hint, here it comes, sign up for the email newsletter, guess what's coming out this week? We're going to be talking about strategy, but we're going to be giving a couple of tips about strategy in that. Same thing if I tell you to go to the blog. It's going to be about strategy. It's all connected and it's all giving. The other thing I'll tell you with that is make sure that the calls to action are somewhat varied. Putting them the same place, same time, all the time sometimes gets a little rough. In the same sense, saying just begging people to do something over and over and over again gets a little bit old. Make sure that you're offering new and different things. Email. Give them a pamphlet. I mean, people will give you their email address for a PDF that shows them what you talked about in the podcast, things of that nature. The thing that so many people don't do with all this is they don't map the content to part of the sales funnel. When you look at the rest of your marketing strategy, it should at least say, look, this is this piece of the funnel or this part of the funnel or this level of the funnel. Wherever it's at, you need to make sure where people are coming on board to your podcast. For us, we're talking about the very basics here in a lot of cases. We're talking about people that, I mean, once again, have done a podcast for a while. They're doing it on their own, or they're thinking about starting. For us, too, I mean, it's all about the top of the funnel. That's where our podcast sits. This is very much top of the funnel. Start getting people into our ecosystem. Maybe your podcast is much closer to when someone's getting ready to buy. Maybe it's halfway through. Maybe it's right after. Maybe they're part of after the email stage. There's all sorts of pieces to this, but make sure that you're talking to people in your podcast in the appropriate place in the funnel. If you're talking to them in the wrong spot, it's once again, it's not going to resonate, and that's a huge part of what it's all about. Additionally, cross-promotion and integration. Now, I say cross-promotion and integration because it's kind of, I talk about your podcast ecosystem all the time. Your podcast is something that it should be a giving thing. So to send that out to people, you are once again giving them something. You're not telling them, hey, I want you to go listen to my podcast. No, you're saying, hey, would you like more information? Here's more information. There's a big difference in the way that's presented. So with this, this gives you another tool, like check us out on Facebook for more information. Check out our website for more information. If you're curious about learning more, sign up for the email newsletter. This is, once again, another avenue for you to reach out to people, for you to get the ear of people and get those additional touch points. With that, you have to make sure that all these touch points, especially the podcast, are bringing value to your listeners. What are they going to gain from this? To me, as a branded podcast, there's two typical keys that people should be gaining from your podcast. One, they should be getting a value for their time in terms of knowledge. They should be learning something. They should be better educated, and they should be able to put something actionable right then and there. The other thing, it should be at least reasonably entertaining. Now, entertaining doesn't mean that you have people rolling on the floor laughing the whole time. That's not necessarily the case. It could just be mildly funny. It could just be something that keeps someone smiling. It could just be something that makes someone feel good by listening to it. Any way you look at it, those are two keys that you really need to have for your podcast to be successful. On the back end of this, I know so many people that will put their podcast out there, and I'm like, what do the analytics look like? And they're like, I don't know. And you're like, what? They're like, I got downloads. Right. When are people leaving? How are people getting there? Those are key pieces of information, because without this, you're just putting a podcast out there on hope. Looking at the analytics lets you know what's going right, what's going wrong, and what you should do more of, what you should do less of, where are the opportunities for you to really capitalize on things. So make sure that you are spending that time and going out and looking at those analytics. It's such a key. If you don't do it, you are missing just a huge, huge, huge opportunity. The same sense from the analytics side, whatever your call to action is, when your episode hits, you should see an increase in that action from the call to action. If you're telling people, hey, sign up for the email newsletter, and you don't get any signups, well, guess what? Maybe that's not the call to action that resonates with people. Maybe you didn't ask it right. You're going to need to try a few different things to see what works. No magic formula, but it will tell you when you did something wrong. The other piece to that is make sure you're working to build community engagement. Whether it's the number one thing, answer the comments. By golly, answer the comments. These are people that have spent their time to reach out to you to say something. They actually typed on their phone. Spend the time to engage with them. When you do that, you have fans for life. The other thing, start a Facebook group or a Discord or a Reddit group. Any one of those things. Encourage those interactions, because once again, that becomes another touch point for you. That becomes another way for you to communicate with your customers. The final piece that I want to mention on this, podcasting. It's like any other piece of marketing. It is a long-term strategy. Don't put a podcast out there and be like, okay, it's out there. Where are the throngs of listeners and viewers? It does not work that way. Podcasting is a long-term strategy. It is like any other long-term strategy. It pays off as long as you put in the time and effort. Make sure that you're doing that. Once you've started to see some of these things, I want you to put together a 12-month podcast plan. How often are we posting? What are we posting? Who are we posting to? All those questions that I talked about earlier, those are the things that we need to look at. Put that in a 12-month podcasting plan. And I'm going to suggest you do it in a Word document or a Google Docs document, because it may change. It's going to change. It's the same thing with the mission statement shouldn't change. The audience might change. How you engage with them might change, because you're going to look at those analytics and those are going to point you in the right direction. With all that being said, we have some very interesting news that bodes pretty darn well for branded podcasts. We'll be right back. Edison Research is one of the leading audio research companies out there. They provide data, insights on podcast listening, it's all about the analytics, the how, the when, the where, the why, how people engage with podcasts and when. It's all about helping podcasters understand the audience and the industry as a whole. They have their report called The Infinite Dial, and the 2025 version just came out. Couple of interesting headlines that I gathered from this. First off, podcast consumption is at an all-time high. 70% of Americans age 12 or up have listened to a podcast in the past year. 70% of people. That is pretty amazing. Now, the really thing that is more amazing with that is 55% of Americans age 12 and up are now monthly podcast consumers. 55% of the people in the country you can reach monthly via a podcast. To me, that's huge. I mean, we've crossed the threshold. If you walk down the street and there's a crowd of people, a majority of them will listen to a podcast. That, to me, statistically speaking, that to me is a pretty neat thing. 73% of Americans have consumed a podcast in either an audio or a video format. A lot of people don't know that they are consuming podcasts. They see it as a talk show when they're watching something on YouTube, but that still slides under that podcast. As far as a branded podcast goes, content, I mean, if you do audio and video as a branded podcast, holy cow, is that, I mean, you can reach so many people. Speaking of the video portion of that, 33% of weekly podcast listeners are using YouTube, whether it be the audio or the video side. Either or, 33% of people are going to YouTube. Make sure your podcast, either the video and or the audio, both should be on YouTube. It doesn't matter where you host your RSS feed. We can talk about that if you'd ever want to talk about like RSS feeds and stuff like that. To me, that is the fact that 33% of people that are listening are on YouTube is huge. The other thing that we've noticed too is that 79% of Americans age 12 and up are listening to some form of online audio. Digital audio consumption is widespread. Could be via their vehicle. So many people are listening to that. Branded, it just really, this tells me branded podcasts are just really well positioned right now. I'm getting so many people saying it's 2025, I'm too late. You're not. Especially if you have just a few people already that would be willing to listen. To me, it's never too late. Let's make sure that we get you up and going before it really is too late. That being said, I would love to hear your questions. I would love to get your feedback. By all means, put those in the comments. If you have a question or a concern about your podcast, please sign up for the No Pitch Podcast consultation. I love doing those because I go on and I get to help so many people just up their game. Put the link into your show. I will go take a listen or a watch for a little bit. We'll come up with some tips that you're going to be able to act on very quickly and very easily. That all being said, this is a great week. I am looking forward to next week. Make sure that you take care of yourself, and if you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you very soon. Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.